The cradle beneath the starship was silent. Only the soft hum of old machines filled the cold air. The stars outside were distant, quiet watchers, and in the center of it all, a mother sat with her two babies. Elara held them close. One baby moved slightly in sleep, the other smiled in a dream. She smiled too, but her eyes were tired. Her thin fingers gently touched their faces, warm and soft. She had named them Nova and Leo. "Sleep now, my stars," she whispered, "the dark won't touch you here." She sang a lullaby. Her voice was low, soft, almost like a whisper. The words were old, from Earth, but full of love. "Hush now, little light. The night is deep and wide, but I will stay beside you until the morning tide." The ship's lights flickered. She looked up again. The power was fading faster. Now, she stood slowly, trying not to wake the babies, and walked to the control panel. Status," she said. The I voice replied. It was calm, cold. "Power reserves, 14%, oxygen stable. Outer sensors online." Elara sighed. She had maybe 2 weeks left, if she used everything carefully, maybe less. The food was low too. But she didn't panic. Not for herself, only for the children. They were all she had, all that was left of her team. Of Earth. Elara had been a scientist once, part of a team working on deep space research. Then the war came, human against human. The stars were no longer places of wonder, but places of fire. Earth burned and her station became her prison. No one answered her calls. No ships came, only silence. "Until now, she said again. "Any signals?" A pause. Then, "Signal detected, unknown source, weak." Repeating, Elara leaned forward. "Play it." The eye played a sound, broken, soft, like music through water, but Elara knew that tune. Her heart froze. It was the same lullaby she just sang. Is this an echo from my voice? Negative. Signal is external. Origin, deep space. Language, 87% match, ancient Earth English. Her hands shook. Someone, or something, was singing her song from far beyond the stars. She ran to the babies. They were still asleep. Nova's hand was curled around Leo's tiny finger. "Who are you?" she whispered to the stars. "Why are you singing my song?" The station lights flickered again, this time longer, then off. Emergency red lights turned on. A cold beep rang out. "Warning," said the AI, "outer hull breach. Sector 4. Elara's eyes widened. That was the cargo bay. "Seal it," she shouted. "Reroute power." The I did as told, but something felt wrong. The ship had not been touched in years. Nothing moved out there until now. And that signal. Elara grabbed a small scanner and rushed through the narrow corridors of the ship. Her boots echoed in the silence. The walls were old, cracked. She reached Sector 4. The doors were closed, but something had tried to open them. Scratches, long, deep. Her breath caught. "Not human scratches." She whispered. "Is something inside?" The answer was slow. "Life signs unknown. Motion detected in multiple sectors." "How?" she said. "This station is locked." Breach came from outside. Entity unknown. Signal increasing. Elara stepped back. She knew one thing now. She was no longer alone. She ran back to the babies. The lights above their cradle blinked. She picked them up, one in each arm. Her voice trembled. "It's okay," she said softly. "Mama's here." She placed them into a small escape pod, just in case. She didn't plan to launch it yet. But if something happened, she needed them safe. The signal played again. From the speakers, louder now, the lullaby, clear. But this time, there was a second voice singing it, echoing her words perfectly. Nova opened her eyes. The baby looked up at the ceiling, smiling. Leo followed. The station lights turned white. For a moment, just one moment, then the eye spoke, and this time, its voice had fear. "They found you." Elara stood still. "Who?" she asked. No answer. Just the song. Playing again, and again, and again. Asterisk. The last safe Placide station was no longer silent. Every light flickered. The metal walls groaned. The soft lullaby still echoed from the speakers, but now it felt different. No longer warm. It felt like a warning. Elara stood frozen beside the escape pod. Her babies, Nova and Leo, were still inside, eyes wide. Calm for now. But her hands trembled. The eye had spoken 3 words she feared most. "They found you." "Who found me?" she whispered. "Answer me." The eye didn't reply. Static filled the speaker for a few seconds. Then it cut off. Silence. And then a sound. Not from the speakers. From the hallway. A soft click. Then another. Slow, heavy footsteps. Not boots. Not human. Metal scraping against metal. Elara single quotes as heart pounded. She quickly closed the pod door, sealing her children inside, not launching it, not yet, but securing it. They had oxygen for 10 hours inside, enough if she acted fast. She grabbed the old plasma cutter from under the panel, weak, but better than nothing. Then the eye's voice came back, quiet, broken, motion approaching. Sector 3, unknown entity. Prepare, defense. Sector 3 was right outside. Elara took a deep breath. Her eyes stayed on the shadows beyond the control room door. The air felt colder. Her skin tightened, then something passed the door, not walked. Floated. She saw only part of it. A long, smooth shape, too fast to track, and then nothing. She stepped back. I sealed the control room. A metal wall dropped with a hiss, blocking the entrance. A temporary shield. Then came a thud. Hard. Loud. Something had hit the barrier. The babies cried inside the pod. Alara turned to them. SHHH, it's okay, Mama's here, Mama's strong, but her mind screamed. She needed to understand what was happening, the signal, the song, the intruder. She looked at the control screen. The signal was still active, still repeating her lullaby, but now, new data blinked. Source moving. Vector unstable. Transmission doubling, and then a new voice entered the signal. Female. Soft. Not her. Not human. Cradle found opening. Alara stared at the screen in shock. What are you? The eye whispered. Signal is not hostile. Tell that to the thing outside my door. She snapped. Another loud hit shook the station. The metal shield bent inward. She had minutes. Maybe less. Then she saw it. A file hidden deep inside the eye's archive. Classified, Project Motherseed. Her eyes narrowed. She remembered that name. Years ago, her team had launched an experiment, sending human songs into deep space. Not just music, but songs of love, loss, lullabies, emotional messages. They believed it might reach intelligent life, but it was shut down. The government feared emotional communication would make humans look weak. Alara had saved the final message and played it every night for her children. Was it possible? Had someone answered it? The eye blinked. Incoming message, translation 70% displaying on screen. Words appeared slowly. We heard her song. We followed the voice. We come for the children. The last seeds of your kind. Alara gasped. You mean my babies? They are more. They are future. Outside. The hallway fell silent. No more hits. No more steps. Just stillness. Then the shield opened. Elara raised her weapon, ready to fight. But what stood before her was not a monster. It was a man, or what used to be one. Tall, armored, face half covered in a black mask, glowing red eyes. Skin pale like ice, not alien. Reclaimer. A soldier from Earth's final war. A hunter of hybrid children found you, he said. Elara stood firm. You won't touch them. They are not human, he said coldly, and you helped make them. He stepped forward. Elara fired the plasma cutter once. A flash. It hit his shoulder. Burning metal. But he didn't stop. He walked through the pain. You broadcast your weakness to the stars, he growled. And now they're coming. You invited them. She backed toward the pod. They answered with peace. There is no peace, he said, only survival. Suddenly, the eye interrupted. External object approaching, speed, impossible, visual feed activating. On the screen, Alara saw it. A ship. Huge, silent, alive. It didn't move like human ships, it pulsed. Like a heart, light flowed across its surface, and from it came music. Her lullaby. But not sung by her. Not by the stars. Not by machines. By hundreds of voices, children, mothers, fathers, in harmony. It shook her soul. Even the reclaimer paused. He turned to the screen. What is that? He whispered. The eye answered. They are not here to fight, they are here to protect. The man growled. Too late. He raised his weapon. Elara pressed the pod's emergency launch. No, he shouted. The pod shot from the station like a bullet, carrying Nova and Leo into space, toward the glowing ship. The man roared in rage. He grabbed Alara by the throat, but before he could hurt her, the station shook. The alien ship sent a wave of light toward them, not fire, not lasers, just light. The metal of the station twisted. The man screamed. Then vanished. Gone. Alara fell to the ground, gasping. The eye spoke softly. Children. Safe. Pod received. She smiled through the pain. Good. Then everything went dark. Her children must live with silence after the storm was not peace. It was the eye of something bigger. Elara opened her eyes slowly. Her head throbbed. Smoke filled the air. Sparks fell from the ceiling like fireflies. Everything hurt. But she didn't care about her pain. She whispered, her voice cracking. Status of the pod? A pause. Then the eye spoke. Weak but alive. Pod received. Life signs stable. Nova and Leo safe. She let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her babies were alive. They were beyond the station now with the ship of light, but the danger was not over. Not yet. Is he gone? The reclaimer unit was erased by external energy. Molecular level disintegration confirmed, eliminated. But Alara didn't trust easy words anymore. She stood slowly, gripping the wall. Her legs shook. Dried blood ran down her forehead. The plasma cutter was broken. She dropped it, useless now. The control room was falling apart, systems blinking. Out one by one. I'd open the archive. Full unlock. Show me everything. The eye hesitated. Password required. Project Motherseed, she said. The screen lit up. Lines of text, maps, video logs, and a truth no one else was meant to see. 8 years ago, Ilar sat in a white lab under Earth's final sun. Outside, the world burned, cities fell, skies turned red. Inside, a small capsule hummed. Inside it, 2 embryos, human, but not entirely. Her voice recorded quietly. Day 482, experiment successful. Hybrid embryos show rapid adaptation to cosmic radiation, extreme gravity shifts, and alien proteins. Phase 3 begins. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands were steady. We designed them to survive what we could not. They're not weapons, they're hope. Her team wanted to hide them, but she refused. She stole the embryos, ran to the stars, and the war swallowed everything behind her. Now, Ilara touched the screen, watching her old self speak, younger, braver, still believing humans could change. A voice interrupted her thoughts. Not the AI. Not human. You loved them before they had names. That is rare. Ilara looked up. A figure stood at the back of the room. No sound, no warning. It was not a soldier, not a ghost. It wore no armor, no face. The shape of light, tall, calm, shifting like a slow flame. Ilara backed away. Who are you? The figure did not step closer. We are the ones who listened. You sang into the void, and we listened. You copied my voice. We felt your fear, your love, your loneliness. We tried to answer in a way your heart would understand. My babies, why did you take them? To protect. They carry both your blood and something new, not alien, not machine, something better. Will you keep them? Her voice cracked. Only if they choose. They are free. Ilara's legs gave way and she fell to her knees. She wasn't fighting anymore. She was pleading. Will they be safe? Yes, but they are not just safe, they are meant. Meant for what? The figure paused. A storm is coming, not just to your world, but across galaxies. Worried stars, your children, may be the first to end it. Ilara shook her head. They're just babies, so were you, once. She looked away. So many had died. And now, somehow, her children were part of something far bigger than she had ever imagined. Meanwhile, in the pod, Nova and Leo stared through the glass as the alien ship pulled them in gently. No force, no gravity shift, just warmth. They did not cry. Instead, they reached for the walls. As if they knew the ship could feel them, the lullaby still played, soft as wind, but it was no longer their mother's voice. It was their own, echoed back at them. Something had changed in their blood, in their minds, and the ship felt it too. Back on the station, the figure of light turned. We must leave. Now. Your body cannot last here. Ilara stood, unsteady. Take me to them. You will not survive the journey. She didn't care. I want to see them even once more. A long pause. Then the figure nodded. The alien ship opened itself. Like a blooming flower. Ilara appeared on the deck, barely conscious, her body weak. Nova and Leo sat in a pool of light, smiling. They looked at her, eyes wide. They remembered her. Ilara fell beside them, wrapping her arms around both. My stars. She whispered, you are more than I ever dreamed. The figure spoke again. You gave them life. We will give them purpose. Ilara closed her eyes. Her children were safe, but beyond the stars, she knew more would come. Others like the Reclaimer. Others who feared what they did not understand. But now, her children had protectors, and maybe, just maybe, they would protect the stars. In return, asterisk voices from the void ship did not move through space like human machines. It glided, like a thought traveling through memory. Inside it, everything was alive, not made of metal, but of light, sound, memory, and emotion. Nova and Leo were asleep, wrapped in warmth that felt like their mother's arms. But this ship had no walls, no engines, no control panels, only echoes, and at the center of it all, a core that listened, and it was listening now. Not to signals or data, but to dreams somewhere deep inside the ship. A voice spoke, not aloud, but across space, like a whisper inside 1,000 minds at once. We remember when stars were young. We remember when humans screamed into the void, and for the first time, they sang instead. They were not machines. They were not gods, they were listeners, a species older than most suns, shaped by sound, by feelings, by story. For 1,000,000 years they wandered the dark, waiting for another voice to rise from silence. And then they heard her. A memory played in the ship's heart, the first time they heard Elara. Her voice, singing into the black, soft, broken, filled with hope and sorrow. Hush now, little light, the night is deep and wide. At first, they did not understand the words. But they understood what they meant, because they, too, had lost children once. They, too, had sung to dying stars. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, they felt grief. And then, curiosity. What kind of beings used song instead of weapons? What kind of species whispered lullabies to the void, instead of screaming for power? In a chamber of memory, the twins now floated, asleep. But changing. The ship surrounded them with dreams. Not just their own, but those of hundreds of other species who had once cried out for peace. Nova stirred, her fingers twitched, glowing slightly. Leo opened his eyes and saw colors that no human eye should see. They were waking, but not as humans anymore. On a dying moon, far from the ship, a signal burst out. This one wasn't soft. It was loud, military, angry. Reclaimer unit down. Hybrid contact confirmed. Foreign vessel intercepted. Authorization to launch cleanse fleet. Sector 19. The message reached a command station orbiting a black dwarf star. There, a man stood in shadows. His name was Commander Drax, leader of the Reclaimer Remnant, a human supremacist faction that believed hybrids were a disease. They had survived the war in silence, hiding, waiting. And now, someone had found what they feared most. They're alive, Drax said, his voice cold. The last hybrid seed. A soldier stepped forward. Orders, Commander, we burn them out of the sky. He said, and anyone who sings with them. Back on the alien ship, Elara stood at a viewing point. Weak but alive. She watched the stars move around them, not because the ship traveled, but because it bent space itself. A voice entered her mind again. You must decide. We can hide your children, or we can make them seen. What does that mean? She whispered. You called out to the stars, hoping someone would listen. Now the stars are listening to your children. If they rise, the galaxy will follow. If they fall, the silence returns. She looked at her babies. No, not babies anymore. Nova's skin glowed like fire beneath water. Leo's eyes held patterns that moved like galaxies. They were evolving. They were remembering things they had never learned. Why me? She asked the voice. I'm just a scientist. I ran, I hid. I'm not special, but you chose love. You chose to sing in a universe of screams that made you more than special. Elara fell silent. Outside, the stars shifted again. A warning came. A fleet comes. They carry fire. They do not listen. They fear what they cannot control. Will you fight them? She asked. We do not destroy. But your children must choose what to become. Inside the ship's mind, Nova and Leo dreamed the same dream. A burning earth, a quiet mother, a song in the dark, a ship made of light. They saw what waited for them: fear, hate, war. But they also saw something else. Hope. And then they spoke together. Not with mouths, but with thought. We are not the end of humans. We are the beginning of something more. The ship responded. It began to sing again. Not one voice now. 1,000 voices. From every world that had ever whispered into the void on board the Reclaimer fleet. Alarms rang out. Commander, something's happening. The stars began to change shape around them. We're being watched. One soldier whispered. Watched by what? Drax growled. The screen lit up. The alien ship had arrived, alone, glowing like a second sun. But behind it, in the dark, other ships began to appear. Not warships, but listening ships. Truth ships. Echo vessels. And they were singing. Back inside the cradle ship, Elara sat between her children, holding their hands. The ship's voice returned one last time. The void is full of voices now. But only yours were brave enough to sing first. The mother's choice. Elara stood in silence, her hands wrapped around Nova and Leo's. The alien ship hummed softly, like it was breathing, alive and aware of what was coming. But outside, the stars were changing. War was approaching. The Reclaimer fleet had arrived. Over 30 warships, dark and sharp like knives, cut through space toward them. Their engines burned with hate. Their weapons were armed, locked, and ready to destroy. Inside the alien vessel, the cradle ship, the walls pulsed with light. They bring fire, the voice whispered, but you hold the match. Elara looked down at her children. Nova's skin shimmered like stars inside water. Leo's eyes glowed, not with fear, but with calm. They were changing. They were becoming something this galaxy had never seen. You must choose, said the ship. Choose what? Elara asked, her voice cracking. To hide, or to lead, to flee, or to become the first light in the dark. On the lead Reclaimer warship, Commander Drax stood on the bridge, his cold gray eyes stared at the glowing vessel before him. He hated it. Not because it was alien, but because it carried the future he feared. Open channel, he ordered. A crackling voice reached the cradle ship. This is Commander Drax of the Human Reclaimer Fleet. You are harboring 2 hybrid anomalies. Surrender them, or be erased. Elara heard it. So did her children. Leo turned his head slightly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. We're not giving them anything, Elara said. They don't want your answer, said the ship. They want your silence. The Reclaimer ships began to charge their weapons. Lines of red heat danced across their hulls. Elara took a breath. She stood, walked forward. Stood in front of the ship's viewing core, and pressed the reply button. Her voice went out across space. Calm, tired, but full of fire. This is Elara Voss. I was born on a world you burned. I ran, I hid, I tried to survive. And now, I choose to fight. You think they're your weapons? She asked. They are not. You think they're your enemies? They are not. They are the Future you were too afraid to create. Commander Drax's face twisted in anger. Prepare to fire. He growled, target the mother. Leave the children. Inside the cradle ship, Nova and Leo suddenly stood, not like toddlers. Like beings who had seen more than a lifetime in a single moment. Nova raised her hand. A soft ripple of light spread across the ship, and outside, the reclaimer targeting systems began to glitch. Lights blinked. Screens turned white. They are learning, said the ship's voice, but not fast enough. If they are taken, the song dies forever. Elara knew what it meant. Her children were not ready to fight a fleet. Not yet. They had power, but it was still raw. They needed more time. A final choice rose in her heart. Not a mother's fear. A mother's instinct. Can I protect them? She asked the ship. You can, but not by staying. Elara reached out and touched Nova and Leo's faces. Listen to me, stars, she whispered. You are more than me. More than this ship, more than this war. You are what comes next. They looked up at her, as if they knew what she was about to do, and still, they did not cry. Elara turned to the core. Take me to them, she said. We cannot follow. I know. You will not return. I know. You may not stop them. But I can slow them. A pod opened behind her, one built only for a single person. She stepped inside. A glowing suit formed around her, light and warmth woven into armor. Not for battle. For sacrifice. On the reclaimer ship, Commander Drax prepared to give the final order. But suddenly, a flash of light appeared outside his window. A pod, tiny, alone. What is that? A human life form, a soldier replied. Alone, Elara, Drax hissed. The pod stopped meters from the flagship. And opened. Elara floated in open space, her arms wide, her body glowing with the energy the cradle ship had poured into her. Her voice, alone in the vacuum, should not have been heard, but it was. It echoed across the comms of every reclaimer ship. You came to kill a song, but I am the song now. And then she sang. The lullaby. Soft. Clear. And it reached every ear on every ship. Not just the soldiers, the engineers, the young recruits. Even the children in the backlines, they heard a mother's voice. And for a moment, they remembered what they had lost. Commander Drax's voice shattered the silence. Fire! Now, but it was too late. Elara single quotes as body exploded in light, not burning, not violent. A wave of memory and sound. It hit the reclaimer fleet like a pulse of truth. Ships powered down. Systems collapsed. Soldiers dropped their weapons, clutching their heads, overwhelmed by visions, not of war, but of home. Of love. Of a lullaby sung to them long ago in a time before hate. The cradle ship opened wide. Nova and Leo stood at the edge, watching the light fade where their mother had been. The ship's voice spoke gently. Your mother sang, louder than their fear. Now it is your turn. The Starburn twins. The universe had changed. After the light wave, the final lullaby of Elara Voss, the reclaimer fleet vanished from known space. Some ships shut down, others drifted for years. A few returned to Earth's ruins, not as warriors but as mourners. But the true story didn't end there, because something had been born in the silence that followed. Not just peace, not just awe. A new kind of life. 20 years later, two ships exited a fold in space, above a quiet system near the edge of known stars. One ship pulsed like a living heart, the cradle vessel. The other was sharp, silver, and smooth, grown from alien technology, but guided by human hands. Inside stood Nova and Leo. No longer infants, not quite human, not quite alien, but something else. The Starborn. Nova stood near the viewing dome, eyes closed. Her body hummed with light, her hair floated around her like a cloud of fireflies. Leo sat beside a large control panel, not touching it, but still moving it with his thoughts. They didn't speak with words anymore unless they chose to, but when they did, their voices were clear, filled with calm power. We're close, Leo said. Nova opened her eyes. Do you feel it too? Yes, a call from the world she never returned to. They were heading back to the station, the old, broken station where their mother had died. No human had returned there since. No signals had been sent. But the twins had felt something in their sleep, a disturbance, like a memory trying to breathe again. As they approached, the station looked the same, silent, dark, half of it torn open, floating above a dead star. But inside, someone was waiting, not human, not reclaimer. Something else. Meanwhile, deep within the broken station, a small figure walked across the old metal floor. It wore no suit. It needed no air. It was a machine, but with a heartbeat. In its core was a stolen copy of Elara's voice, recorded during her last moments, and now someone had reactivated it. A soft hum came from a hidden chamber. Then her voice, hush. Now, little light. The machine paused. It didn't understand the meaning, but it wanted to. Back on the twin ship, Nova sat with her hand against the wall. The ship spoke in images now, not words. It showed a vision, the station lighting, Bit by bit. Something awakening. Is it her? Nova whispered. Leo shook his head. No. But it remembers her. They docked with the broken station. The door opened with a long, painful hiss, like the place itself was trying to breathe again after decades of silence. They stepped inside. And the memories came rushing back. Not theirs, their mother's. Flashback. 20 years ago. Elara walking through this very hallway, the reclaimer's voice on the speakers. The glowing pod, the goodbye. The lullaby. Nova gripped the rail beside her. I can still hear her. Leo nodded. We all do. The stars carry her voice now. They reached the core of the station, and there it was. The machine, sitting in the center of the old command room. When it saw them, it tilted its head. Then it spoke. Not in a robotic voice. But in Alara's. Hello, stars. Nova's knees buckled. Leo caught her. It wasn't her, but somehow her soul had touched this machine before she died. The machine stood, unique name, Elara. Emotional learning archive, reclaimer asset, memory volume, corrupted but recovering. Leo stepped forward. Who brought you back online? The machine replied, unknown signal. Origin, the core of the dead star, signal type lullaby. Waveform, Nova froze. The star is singing. They looked out the window. The dead star had always been silent. But now, the sensors picked up a pulse. Deep, low, steady. A song made of gravity and time. And then Nova realized their mother's final light had entered the star when she sacrificed herself, and stars remembered, the dead star was no longer dead. It was answering her, but the signal had drawn attention. Far away, deep in forgotten space, something ancient moved, not reclaimer, not alien. Something older. It had heard the lullaby but it didn't sing. It consumed. A black fleet awakened, asleep since before humans ever left Earth. Creatures without form, without sound, only hunger. They called themselves the Silence. And they had only one goal, erase the voice that began the song. Leo turned to Nova. They're coming. Nova nodded. Her eyes glowed brighter. Then we sing louder. They turned to the machine, Alara's echo. Prepare the station, Nova said. We'll hold them here. Until when? It asked. Leo smiled. Until everyone starts singing back. And somewhere far beyond the system, ships began to move. Not just alien ships. Not just cradle ships. But small human ships, repaired stations. Peaceful colonies. All those who once heard the song and remembered. And the silence was not ready for what came next. When humanity sang to the stars, silence was coming, not just as a soundless wave, but as a force that unmade. Where it passed, stars dimmed, planets turned cold, memory collapsed. The silence did not hate. It simply believed in forgetting. It had one goal, erase the voice that first broke the quiet, Alara's lullaby. Now, decades later, the silence had returned, not to Earth, but to something more dangerous, the station where Alara died, the twin she left behind. The song that had grown into a galaxy-wide memory. Nova and Leo, the starborn twins, stood on the edge of the universe's most sacred memory, a mother's final whisper. And they would not let it fade. Inside the old station, a copy of Elara, now fully awakened, repeated her old words, hush now, little light. But this time, it wasn't just memory, she was the ignition. Her words reached the dead star, which pulsed with a soft glow, not nuclear heat, but a kind of emotional signal. Something deeper than science. Nova turned to Leo. They're listening, then. It's time to speak louder than fear. Elsewhere across the galaxy, one by one, they came ships. Not war fleets, but carriers of memory. A Martian refugee ship tuned into the signal. A station on Saturn's rings sent out an ancient Earth song. An AI colony from the edge of the void harmonized the frequency. And even a reformed reclaimer vessel, long abandoned, began to hum. People who once feared the lullaby now sang with. Its Alara's final message had survived war, time, space, and it had become a language of unity. But the silence had arrived, a storm of black, shapeless, endless. It didn't send messages. It didn't announce itself, it simply began to erase. Ships disappeared, memory banks turned to static, even the brightest stars nearby began to dim. Nova stepped forward. Floating above the station's old bridge, around her, fragments of human and alien tech responded to her presence, reshaping into armor, energy, and light. She no longer looked like a girl, she looked like a signal made flesh. Leo joined her, his body radiating frequency waves like a living satellite. The AI spoke calmly. Probability of physical resistance, 0. Probability of emotional resistance, unknown. Leo smiled. Then we play the unknown. They opened the song. Not just the lullaby, but every melody ever whispered by Earth, the first heartbeat heard in a mother's womb. A piano played during a bombing. A child humming to themselves on a refugee ship, a captain singing into deep space while waiting to die. All of it, collected, amplified, and unleashed. They didn't fire weapons. They broadcasted humanity's soul, and the silence heard it. The great black wave hesitated. Not out of fear, but confusion. It had never heard emotion as a weapon. It had consumed fire, it had swallowed light, but never love. And for a moment, just one, it cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Nova flew forward. A comet of memory. Leo followed, voice vibrating through every frequency in space. You tried to erase her, they cried, but she became all of us back on. The cradle ship, once just a listener, began to speak hundreds of languages. Thousands of voices, all singing one message: we are the story she left behind. And then came the response, not from humans, not from machines, but from other species, civilizations that had once hidden in fear. They, too, had heard the lullaby. They had rewritten it in their own tongues, made it part of their myths. Now they returned, not with weapons, but with echoes. Final confrontation. Silence surged forward again, desperate, angry now, but this time, it was not met with resistance. It was met with memory. With a billion voices, the twins' bodies dissolved into energy, becoming part of the song itself. Leo, the frequency. Nova, the harmony. And together, they sent one final message: you are not our end. You are our silence, but we are the sound that wakes it. The silence broke, not destroyed. Healed. As if even darkness had been waiting for someone to listen to it too. Years. La Terra monument floats in orbit of the reborn star, not a statue, not a machine, just a crystal. Inside it, a flickering hologram of a woman holding to infants. She sings, the lullaby never ends. It's not a song anymore. It's a signal woven into the stars themselves. Whenever a child is born on a distant world, whenever someone cries alone in the dark, the stars hum softly, a voice returns, hush. Now, little light, the night is deep and wide, but I will stay beside you until the morning tide.